So Mary, but you're going to let us know when we're ready?
You're ready to go, and we have no one for public comment.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Well, welcome. Welcome to the Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee meeting on November the 10th, 2020 at 5 p.m. We're calling the meeting to order, and there is no public comment today. So the first item on business, committee business, is the approval of the October 13th, 2020 minutes. Council, is there any discussion?
I so approve.
Do I hear a motion? Oh, thank you. Okay. The October 13th minutes were approved, moved for approval by Councilmember Acevedo and seconded by Councilmember Baruso. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So let's see, now we're item B on the agenda. It's the 2021-2022 Human Services General Fund grant recommendations. Sarah Bridgeford.
Good evening.
Hi, Sarah. Okay.
Thank you for having me, Chair Kochmar and members of the committee. This evening, I am going to be presenting on the Human Services Commission's recommendations for 2021 through 2022 Human Services General Fund grant recommendations. The policy question that will be before you if you move this to Council next week is, should City Council approve these recommendations in the amount of $536,000? So I will give a little bit of background and then talk about the process and answer any questions that you have. As background, there are 3 strategy areas for the city's grant funding. The first is to address basic needs, including housing, health, and hunger. The second is promote individual and community safety through prevention, intervention, and crisis services. The third is promote services that foster stability and self-sufficiency for families and individuals. For all of our grant making, we are integrating principles of equity into the application as well as evaluation. The funding is for the period of 2021 through 2022. The estimated funding available annually is $536,000. That is included in the proposed budget. Of course, that is pending council approval on the budget. The application period opened on March 4th of 2020 and was closed on May 5th, 2020. We had 1 extension due to COVID-19, allowing extra time as agencies adjusted. Federal Way received 77 applications in total. 75 of the applications were complete and submitted on time. Of the 75 applications, there was a total request of $1,488,000. This was the highest requested amount in the city's grant-making history. The Human Services Commission participated in a 3-part training on equity and how to integrate that into evaluation. Prior to the start of the evaluation process. They read the applications and evaluated applications. The recommendation started from that quantitative place using the average scores for each application. This cycle, the cutoff was a score of 80, and then the commission would look through the applications that would have been funded and make recommendations to move additional applications up if they would have left significant gaps in specific strategy areas or to address specific needs of populations within the city. The commission actually made 2 sets of recommendations, which you'll see 2 columns in your packet. The first is a set of that increased the allocation. That increase is not in the city's proposed 2021 through 2022 budget. The other column is a recommendation at that $536,000 level, and that is the current funding and would be sustained as proposed in the budget. The total number of applications in that $536,000 recommendation is 48 applications. 41 of those are funded with general fund. 7 are funded with the Community Development Block Grant. That will be a separate presentation, and we will talk about the CDBG funding in that presentation. you may have seen this in the report, but the funding by strategy area for the general fund only is a total of $349,000 for strategy 1 for basic needs. And that's again at that $536,000 level. For strategy 2, promoting safety, it's $144,000. And then for strategy 3, it's $43,000. A lot of strategy 3 funding falls into the CDBG funding, so you'll see that again in that next presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. You can see the full list of individual grants in your packet.
I have a question.
Council, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, so
ahead.
much for, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah, so much for the presentation and for this thorough thought out process that you guys applied for these recommendations, as well as the equity training that the commission went through to get to this. My question is like Hospitality House. Do you know why they were not funded for 2021, 2022?
Yes. So most of the time, if you see an application that is not currently recommended for funding, it was an application that did not evaluate well, and I'm pulling up the scores as we speak, but I believe that was the case in Hospitality House. And then they did talk about the gap in shelter services. Reach Out will continue. It will look very different and possibly not in a federal way, but it was, so just confirming that is a scoring based decision. And it was felt that there were other shelter options with Reach Out, and then that Commerce grant that is supporting additional units of hoteling as well.
So how did they do in this currently? How are they doing with the funds that they received?
Yeah. So it looks like, let me see. I'm just pulling up that PDF that had been shared with council. I believe that they have met their performance targets or on track. But before I say that for certain, I want to open this and take a look.
Thank you so much.
Yes. This is one nice thing with virtual meetings is that if I'm quick about it, we can open this and get you an answer without having to miss.
Yeah.
And that it does look to be the case that they are meeting their performance targets.
Okay. And so you're confident that we're okay supporting the homeless population with the other grants and other services that we are going to be offering, correct? That's what I'm understanding.
I don't think we have ever met the full extent of the need for shelter services, regardless of what programs we have funded.
Okay.
So I would.
No, I understand. And I think that's where I'm getting at, because the need is so vast. So I would have liked to see them funded, but I also totally support what is brought forth from the commission. So I'm not challenging it. I just wanted to better understand and see how else we can support this population.
Yeah.
Because the need is so great. So,
yeah.
Thank you so much.
And if I may just add that the 2019-2020 contracts, they were contracted to serve 4 individuals. And so that just kind of provides some level of scope that, if we're looking for broader service, that certainly plays into it. Those 4 individuals would benefit from that shelter. But it is not like Reach Out where we have a larger number and a larger number of people accessing local shelter.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Sebadawson. Councilmember Brusso, do you have any questions?
Well, thank you, Chair Korchmar. Sarah, thank you for the presentation. I just had a question. And so on the amounts that you have for both 2021, 22, you have some of the amounts match both years and some of them don't. So how is that figured? Like,
yeah.
Are like Crisis Clinic will get 9,000 and then 8,000 in the next 21, 22. I'm trying to read this right. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're just fine. So it was a percentage. The commission decision was to do a decrease by percentage to get to that 536. They actually started at that higher funding level, and they decide some of that process and how they make adjustments, and they decided to use a percentage. So once you get into those smaller dollar amounts, it ended up rounding to the same amount. We also have a $5,000 minimum. So any grants that were at that $5,000 level would continue to see that $5,000 recommendation. But that would be why you see some grants that have the same amount of funding.
Okay, thank you.
Council President Honda, do you have any questions? Okay. So,
not
Sarah,
right now.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, do you think that if we get any more money from a stimulus grant from the federal government, that any of it would go to any of these projects?
When you say any more money from what grants?
Well, we got the CARES grant, but do you expect any money to come in any future stimulus grants from the federal government?
I would hope so, but I couldn't answer that. If we did see additional funds, we would be working with council.
Sure. Yeah, my question with that would be, if we do, hopefully, I would like to get it out to those that need it as quickly as possible. And at that point, it should be in the middle of the winter, and we'd probably want to make sure we had sheltering services for folks with the food. And so I would just like to share our Human Services Commission, and that we're all aware that if that money does come in, that we would want to work as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah.
I have,
Council, are there any more questions?
Yes, please.
Of course, Councilmember Sabat-Dawson. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Sarah, I did make an observation that none of the, and I think this is what I saw, none of the services that provide, none of the agencies that provide services to the immigrant population were funded, from my observation, and that is a little troubling. And can you tell me what happened there? Is it that their applications were not sufficient, or what happened? Because I didn't see any of them funded.
There are some that are funded, and we see in here, hold on.
So I'm looking at REWA, Iraqi Community Service. There was another one, Ethiopian Community Center. So I know El Centro is funded, but El Centro also has a history with us that is very strong, and I understand that. But the new Somalia Youth and Family Club.
Yes, and so some of them, it was based on application. There are several that are funded, and I'm just struggling for some reason. It is not scrolling appropriately. The Partner in Employment actually focuses on refugee and immigrant populations. And they
Correct.
are
Okay, go ahead.
funded.
Sorry.
There are several others that are serving specific cultural populations. The unfortunate piece is the commission had to make some really difficult decisions with the amount of funding available, and they did address certain cultural populations, refugees and immigrants, that they could not fund every program. They tried to balance the programs that were funded based on their location, so trying to get things that were local, more accessible, along with meeting the very diverse needs in the community. And it is imperfect. And I think if you spoke with our commissioners, they would say as much, that they had some really difficult decisions and did not know what else to cut when they had additional programs that they wanted to fund.
Yeah, but I'm looking at like Ukrainian Community Center, Somali Youth and Family Club. There was another one I had seen. So yeah.
And I don't want to speak about a specific
No.
organization, but one of those would not actually be eligible for funding based on lack of insurance at this time. We are not able to fully reimburse on that contract this year either.
Okay.
So there's more to it. I'm happy I can share that. We just try not to speak. I don't want to speak poorly about a specific organization in that way.
And I do appreciate that, Sarah. Honestly, I'm not second guessing the commission. I'm just sharing my observation that the list that I looked at and the ones that are specifically targeting a given culture, because sometimes people are more comfortable going to those community centers than going to one that serves a latitude of different cultures. That said, it was just interesting to me that every single one of them didn't get funded. But again, it's just an observation, and maybe you and I can talk offline later just so I can better understand. But I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to Councilmember Leandra Croft, who's joined us. So, Councilmember Croft, do you have any questions about the topic we're talking about, which is the funding for the Human Services Grant 21-22?
No, not at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, are there any other questions, Council? Hearing none, may I hear a motion?
I'll give you a motion, Chair Coachmore.
Thank you.
I move to forward the proposed Human Services General Fund grant recommendations to the November 17, 2020 agenda for public hearing and approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been recommended by Councilmember Baruso and seconded by Councilmember Sevadasan to move the proposed Human Services General Fund grant to the November 17th, 2020 agenda for public hearing and approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. And Sarah, would you please tell the Human Services Commission, thank you. I know that this takes a lot of time and a lot of work, a lot of effort going over all the applications and the grants, and it's such a heart-rending process when you have almost $1.5 million in requests, and you only have a third of the money available. So tell them thank you, and I do hope we get some money in from the federal government at some point here. Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, so moving on to the next item on the agenda, that's item C, Program Year 2021 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Fund Annual Action Plan. So now this was the operating fund. We're now going to the capital budget grant, Community CDBG Block Grant Annual Action Plan. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair Kochmar. So I will give you an overview of the 2021 Annual Action Plan. The bulk of the funds is for capital and economic development. There is also a small portion that is public services. That is that final column on the spreadsheet that you were just looking at in your packet that is also presented in the 2021 Annual Action Plan. So the Annual Action Plan serves two purposes. The first is to demonstrate how federal funds will support communities in achieving defined goals and expected outcomes. This is a technical document that is produced in HUD's database management system. The second is a resource for communities to see how federal funds will be used and the proposed impact. When we look at our 2021 Annual Action Plan and the objectives, they're in alignment with the consolidated plan. They are to improve and expand affordable housing options, expand businesses to create jobs and assist with the development of microenterprise, address and prevent homelessness, strengthen neighborhoods through the planning and strategic neighborhood revitalization efforts, and to administer the CDBG program. For 2021, we have based this annual action plan on our 2020 award of $735,417. Typically, we get our final award in May, sometimes a little bit later. It just varies year to year. That is for our program year that starts on January 1st. So we do go a fair amount of the year without having that final amount. We can make some minor adjustments in planning and admin and some other programs based on that final award amount. You'll see that for planning and admin, we have allocated $147,000. That will include technical assistance to organizations that are funded, making sure that they're aware of the federal requirements. We will be able to offer those trainings to other organizations that typically wouldn't be interested in or considered for federal funding for a variety of reasons. And we're hoping that that will help them get to the point where they have the policies and procedures in place that reduce their risk as a subrecipient. The Public Services has a 15% cap, and that allocation is $110,000 for 2021. For 2021 SURF, our Community Economic Revitalization funding is 65% of our annual award, and that allocation is $478,000. For SURF projects, it includes $37,000 for code compliance, $381,000 for housing repair, but we'll talk about that as noted in the staff report in the annual action plan and in my addressing of it tonight. That is actually a higher allocation than we would typically see. Normally, we would allocate $175,000 to housing repair. This includes the Section 108 repayment for 2021. Because of the timing with the notification that we're not using CDBG to repay that loan in 2021, we did not have time to have additional projects or move something into this process. We were already out for public comment. We could add it to an existing project, but not add something new. One of the things that has been discussed is the potential of using those funds for a single adult shelter locally in Federal Way. We recognize that with Reach Out not being able to operate like they have in the past, that it leaves a gap in service here within the city. There's potential that a shelter acquisition or something local could occur with those funds, and we would bring that before council to make a decision. But the initial thinking in conversation with Mayor Farrell is that we would like to see that go to a shelter project if possible. We have the ability to hold on to those funds for some amount of time, a year or two, as they look at other funding sources. We've had some initial conversations with King County, who's still working out their budget as well. So not sure if there would be a project, but that number may seem high at $381,000, and that's the reason that it is so high. Highline College has a total of $60,000 for their micro enterprise programs. And then Public Services that you saw on that previous document with our general fund grants includes the Federal Way Inclusion Program, the Multi-Service Center Youth Employment Services, Orion Employment Services, ANEW for a training and job skills program, El Centro de la Raza for an information and referral program, Fusion for transitional housing, and Partner in Employment for employment and economic stability for primarily refugees and immigrants. With that, our timeline is that we have a public hearing at City Council next week, assuming that you move it forward. We would again update that allocation to housing repair at a later date and have a public process for that allocation as well. I would be happy to take any questions that you have.
Before I ask council for questions, Sarah, let me just verify. This total amount we're talking about for the block grant funds total was how much?
$735,417.
And 71,000 of it was in the third column in the original, the previous agenda item we just looked at. 60,000 is from the Highline. So we've got, I'm just trying to count up all the money here. I'm trying to find the part where you've got the money allocated for.
Yes. So are you looking in your packet?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm on page 35 at the moment. So your project summary, okay, here I am. So on page 36, it's a little difficult because we don't have it on the screen in front of us, but it looks like on page 36, that's the project summary description with the amounts included. Yeah,
Yes.
381,000 for the CDBG funding for housing repair, 147 for program administration. So what am I missing?
And then it keeps going. Code compliance for 37,000.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
And then there are 7 public services for 110,000, as presented in the other document as well. 60,000 for
Okay,
Highline between
gotcha.
2 different programs.
Okay. Okay.
And-
when we go for this, Sarah, will you have a ability to make a presentation on screen so that everybody can see what we're talking about? Especially,
Yes.
for the first item, with the columns, and then for this item, for the annual action plan, where the money is all included underneath in your. It looks like it's in a just a Word document. So I don't know if you could make it any smaller, but the document is fine. It just would help if it was on a screen in front of us. Council, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Council President Honda.
Sarah, under the code compliance project, does that have anything to do with the rental inspection program?
It does not. The city has historically funded code compliance in low and moderate income areas of the city. This is a smaller amount than in the past, but it is not part of the rental housing inspection program.
Okay, thank you.
Council, are there any other questions? None? I see that you
I have
do.
one question. Sorry.
Go ahead, Councilmember Kraft. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Sarah. I just wanted to ask for the housing repair program, project number 2 on packet page 36. How are we going to, or how is it going to be determined how are recipients going to be prioritized for this funding?
So the housing repair program, as I noted, just it's worth repeating again. That amount is high and higher than what we will allocate in the end. So we will not have 381,000 for housing repair. Our housing repair is a 0% interest deferred loan program. It is not a grant program. We have not had a situation where we have run out of funds in any given year. Jerry Lynn is the person who is primary on housing repair. We work as a team, of course, but there's a set of eligibility criteria set by HUD that the city implements. We have policies and procedures. We will be doing an update, bringing them to council. We've talked a lot about how the program is promoted because in our opinion, it is underutilized. And knowing that we need to do some additional work in getting that out there. But like I said, to date, we've not had to turn eligible households away from the program.
Great, thank you.
Helpful, thanks.
So that's a good question, Councilmember Kraft. So Sarah, how do we let people know in the community how to apply?
We have information on the website. Every email that goes out from community services has it. We've done some mailers. We have postcards that have gone to different partnering agencies and some churches, I believe, that Jerry Lynn has worked with. lots of different avenues for getting the program out. We are looking at what else we can do in changing, not the terminology, but how it's presented, because it's, I think, a lot to take in when you see the word loan, and we're talking about people who don't have a lot of money, and thinking about another loan is can be disconcerting. And it is a 0% interest loan, usually due upon sale or change of ownership with the home. So there is no payment until that time. And I think that's our biggest challenge, is how do we share that on a piece of paper if we're not having a conversation with someone?
Right. Deputy President Honda, do you think that you could include that on our council website and then link it to Facebook?
Sure, I'll talk with Jerry Lynn about it. Good idea.
Okay.
And if I may add.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Sarah, it might be also helpful to have it in different languages. If there's funds that, if you have the funds to do so, because a lot of people who need it probably, may have language barriers. So that might be another way to promote it.
Thank you, Councilmember Sapadassan. That's a good idea. Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Sure. I move to forward the program year 2021 CDBG annual action plan to the November 17th, 2020 agenda for public hearing.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And that was motion was made by Councilmember Sapadassan and seconded by Councilmember Baruso. And I'm repeating that just for the record. All right. The next item on the agenda, Officer Schwan, are you here for the jail services contract for the SCORE jail?
Yes, I am. Good evening, Council Chair or Council Committee Chair and Council members. I've got the next 3 items I'll be presenting to you. The first one here is the SCORE jail contract service. And the policy question for you is, should the Federal Way Police Department enter into a contract with SCORE jail for a jail services contract to cost approximately $175,000? Most of you are well aware that we moved away from SCORE last year or the beginning of this year and have been using contract jails to accommodate and house our inmates. And we have been successful with that so far this year, as you're also well aware of from the meetings with the day. So what we're looking at is SCORE has come to us and asked us to come back as a contract city, which in fact is at a much greater savings to us than what we were paying as a member city. So we would like to enter into a 3-bed guarantee contract with them for inmate housing. And I know Council Committee Chair Coach Meyer, you had some questions specifically about what jails we were using and whatnot, and I'm willing to answer those questions for you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Officer Schwan. Well, let me ask when you say 3-bed, you're meaning 3-bed per day, correct?
Yes, it would be a 3-bed guarantee per day.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll let the other council members ask their questions, then I'll ask mine. Okay. Council members, do you have any questions?
I do.
Chair Coach Meyer, I had the question on the beds, but I just had the question on the beds, and that was answered. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Sapadassan?
Yeah. My question is then, how are we prioritizing where the inmates go? So would this be like the first place, and where are we taking the 3 beds from the current contracts that we have with the other jail system?
Well, we're always going to have inmates over the jail bed spaces that we have guaranteed. So for us to enter into another contract with guaranteed bed rates, which actually saves us money over normal bed rates, is a benefit for us. Obviously, I don't want to enter into a huge contract with multiple beds, but if we were to save 3 beds, that would be fantastic. Now, right now, Kent City Jail is our primary booking location, but it has a more expensive bed rate than SCORE Jail will. However, we cannot book DUIs at Kent Jail because they have a different bond process and a bail process than we accept in our jail, than our court system. So SCORE would be able to accept our DUI arrests instead of us having to take them all the way out to Issaquah. So what we're doing is we're adding a 3-bed guarantee to the current beds that we currently have. However, it's still going to be a benefit to us because the guaranteed beds that we would have at this time would be, right now, we have 13.
So it's going to 16.
Right, only 16 beds. And right now, I have 21 people out at Issaquah Jail. Just by itself, not including the other jails that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kraft, did you have any questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Deputy President Honda? All right. Thank you very much.
I
go
actually
ahead.
do have a question. Can you tell us, are you using Yakima very often?
We were up to the point that they closed and we weren't able to keep anybody out there. They just recently opened up on the 1st of November. While they were looking at opening up on the 1st of November, I'm getting someone shaking their head at me right now telling me that they ended up not opening up because of the surge that we just recently experienced. So no, we are not currently using them because they're closed to us. If they do open up again, we will move out there. However, we have been also informed that in 2021, their rate will be going up $20 a day per bed, which is still less expensive than over here. It'll only be $85 a day, but we also have to wait for them to open, and it's contingent on them completely.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just doing some quick math here. So that we're spending, at the SCORE jail, we'd be spending about $160 per bed per day.
128. So I added a little extra.
128.
I added a little extra into the estimation because in 2021, the contract adds a $35 booking fee that we are not going to experience in 2022 will have a $35 booking fee that 2021 will not.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, my question was how many jails are we using besides SCORE and Kent?
So we're using the Puyallup Jail, Issaquah, Kent, King County Jail, Yakima, and now it will be SCORE. So that's 6 jails total if we add SCORE to it.
Okay, thank you very much. So of all those jails, which one is the highest?
King County Jail.
It's amazing. So, and the problem is, even when we use Yakima, when we're going that far, we also you have to include our officers' time as well. So it's a little disconcerting. Are we using Fife anymore?
Fife does no longer have a jail.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And you have to forgive me. Would you give me your correct title?
I'm the administrative commander.
Thank you. So I should be calling you Commander Schwan. Thank
You
you
can call me whatever
very
you want.
much. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. And I see Councilmember Kraft has a question. I don't know how to check the hands, so you guys just raise your hands because I'm not sure how this hand thing works.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Commander Schwan, what are the facilities that we are currently using that does use that we can book on DUIs? You said that Kent, we can't book on DUIs right now. Do all of the other facilities allow that work with our municipal court system? So Issaquah, Puyallup?
Yes, Issaquah. Most of our bookings go to Issaquah, and the reason is Puyallup was a 3-bed guarantee at the beginning of the year, but due to COVID, they've reduced us to 1 bed right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of difficult for us to have any space down there. So we've really been utilizing Issaquah, which isn't a bad thing for us right now because it's only $90 a day. They're generally inexpensive for us. The only other place that would allow us to book our DUIs would be King County. And actually, that's going to be 4 times the expense of going to Issaquah just to book the same person at King County. So we really shy away from using King County. unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay. And for these other facilities, are they equipped with handling people with mental health issues? I know King County is, but are any of the other facilities equipped with that?
SCORE is equipped with that. The other facilities have 7-day-a-week medical coming in. They don't have special people on site all the time, but
Okay.
if at any time they're deemed that they need additional help, they are transferred out of the facility to a hospital, and we perform what we call medical furloughs and release them from custody so they can get treatment.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Chair Coach Mark. Commander Schwan, I had a question on the fees and charges services that's listed on our packet. Could you explain the non-guaranteed beds and come down to the daily rate surcharges? So the surcharges on top of their $128, or how is this working?
Which part are you looking at?
I'm looking at the fees and charges and services, page 64 of the agreement. Has the daily housing rates, the general population guaranteed beds 128, and it comes down to general population non-guaranteed beds at 184, and you have some
Okay, so-
surcharges on there for mental health ones. I just
Right. So
didn't.
if we end up taking someone up to the jail and they end up needing mental health services, they are moved into the mental health residential beds. And that ends up costing us $159 a day instead of the $128 a day, or the it's on top of the daily rate.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering if it was on top. Okay,
It's the same way that King County stacks their prices. It's the daily rate to get them in, and then it's the additional charge on top of for any other acute medical needs that they need on top of it.
Okay. And then the non-guaranteed beds in general population's 184.
Yes.
That's okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you very much. All the good questions all. Are there any other questions? May I hear a motion?
I give you a motion, Chair Kochmar.
Thank
I
you.
move to forward the proposed agreement. I move to forward the proposed agreement to the November 17, 2020 Council consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Second. Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Baruso and seconded by Councilmember Sevadasan to move the proposed SCORE jail agreement to the November 17th Council consent agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Commander Schwan, so we have you for the next three, it looks like, huh? For
The next two, and then
item
I'm gonna
E.
hand it- yeah, I'm going to hand off after the next two. I'll hand it off to Deputy Chief Neal.
Thank you. So for E, it's the agreement between the Washington Traffic Safety Commission, WTSC, and the Federal Way Police Department to provide grant funding for law enforcement liaison.
Yep, the policy in front of you should be, should the City of Federal Way or the Federal Way Police Department accept $1,500, $1,500 from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission for law enforcement liaison services. So with that, what law enforcement liaison is, it's typically a supervisor from one of the regional agencies that helps the Target Zero manager, which is a civilian, oversee all the aspects of the Target Zero enforcement that's going on in the county. So we are part of Region 7-8, which is the North and South King County regions. And the South County has one law enforcement liaison, which is our Lieutenant Briggs Schultz. So part of that special benefit of having that, he gets an additional $1,500 to put towards training or equipment that he can utilize on behalf of the Federal Way Police Department. So that's what this is about.
Thank you, Commander. Council, are there any questions? Are there any questions from Councilmember Kraft or Deputy President Honda? Okay, seeing none, may I hear a motion?
Sure. I move to forward the contract between the WTSC and the Federal Way Police Department and then to the November 17, 2020 Council consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilmember Dawson, seconded by Councilmember Baruso to move the agreement for the WTSC and the Federal Police Department to provide grant funding for law enforcement liaison to the November 17th consent agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Council. Okay, moving on, Commander, to your last item, item F, the agreement between the WTSC and the Federal Police Department to provide grant funding for traffic enforcement.
So the policy question here is, should the city of Federal Way, the Federal Way Police Department, accept $13,000 from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission for specialized enforcement in DUI, motorcycle, distracted driving, and additional enforcement activities? So what we have is a pool of money. As we talked about, King County is the 7 to the 8 regions of the state for Target Zero enforcement. And they are pooled with a amount of money of about $185,000, but it gets split up between all the agencies in the entire county. So we are allotted a certain amount of money to start with at about $13,000. It could go up a little bit depending on the amount of enforcement we get, but they give us a base rate of $13,000 to accept. And then what our officers do is, on the state's time, on overtime, they will go out and do this type of enforcement and build a state for the overtime expenses of going out and doing DUI enforcement, distracted driving enforcement, and motorcycle safety enforcement.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions?
Just a
So
comment.
basically, we're accepting a 13th. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah.
Councilmember Kraft, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Kochmar. I just want to say, I do think, and I think you were alluding to this, we're just accepting $13,000. It's not going to cost the city. I personally have been on a Target Zero ride along, and it's so important to have those extra funds actually for people to be, for officers to be out there doing that additional work, because when there aren't officers, officers are going to be pulled to higher level crime scenes. So more officers on the road for the DUIs that could commonly be missed, I think is pretty important.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kraft. Or any other comments or suggestions or questions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Oh, yes, I'll give you one. I move to forward proposed agreement to the November 17th, 2020 City Council consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Thank you very much. So it's been moved by Councilmember Baruso, seconded by Councilmember Dawson, to move to forward the proposed agreement to the November 17th, 2020 Council agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Commander Swan. Have a nice night. Have a good evening.
Night. Thank you.
You bet. And so now we're moving on to Deputy Chief Neal to discuss item G at the Kiewit Bridge and Marine Extra Duty Police Services Agreement.
Good evening, Chair Kochmar and the rest of the committee. The policy question here is, should the City of Federal Way Police Department enter into an agreement with Kiewit for extra duty police services? This is typical of several of many agreements that we have of this, where extra duty or off duty, if you will, police officers assist at construction sites, primarily with Kiewit. I believe it's this particular project to be up around the 320th and 23rd South area where the construction is going to be conducted. There will be no negative impact to the city or the police department. This is extra duty pay coming from this company.
Council, are there any questions?
Deputy Chief Neal, I have a question.
Sure.
So how do you, on the off-duty hours, is there a limit of hours that have been on duty before they can work those hours, or how's that work?
Yeah, we have a schedule. Obviously, we keep track of that. Our office manager, Lynette Allen, really is the gatekeeper, if you will, for this sort of thing. And we have stipulations in place. Obviously, we don't want an officer who, let's say, works an entire shift and then right away goes and works a another huge shift for obvious reasons, officer safety and so on. So yes, we do have systems in place to regulate that, to ensure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember, are there any other questions? Any other questions from any other council members? You know, so on page, let's see, 90, Deputy Chief, WTSC has awarded $185,000 to Region 7-8 Traffic Safety Task Force. So where are we? What part of that is coming to the city of Federal Way, or what part?
Well, for the purposes here, there's an hourly rate for our officers who work these details, which in this case is $80 per hour, and a certain amount that goes for administrative fees, and the rest, I believe it's $67 an hour goes to the officer who works it. But as far as
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. So I'm really just wanting to make sure that I want to make sure we have enough for the extra amount of duty that we're going to need. So that should be sufficient. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have a question, Council Chair.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So the city pays and we get reimbursed. Is there a reimbursement format? Right?
Yes, that's correct. That's what, we enter into this agreement, and the city pays. We're reimbursed by the company at that hourly rate.
Okay, so it's up to, we don't know how much it would be, but what you're saying is it's not going to impact our budget at all. So we can, right?
That's correct. It's all reimbursed. Okay. So it's, we get paid for the services. The officer gets paid, and then the city gets reimbursed for all of it. Plus, not just the amount that the officer receives, the $67 an hour, but also there's an administrative fee so that we're not out that either.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I think, Deputy Chief, I hope that when they do the new stimulus package that they have hazardous duty pay for all you frontline folks so that you get paid to reimburse you for the hard work that you're doing. So
I'm all for
your motion. Okay.
Sure. I move to forward the proposed extra duty police services agreement to the October 20, no, wrong date, right? Am I reading the right
17th.
thing?
Yeah, it should be the November 17th.
November 17th,
November
2020 consent agenda for approval. Okay.
And second.
That's probably one of those wonderful clerical copy over things that I've been caught on many times in my lifetime. So thank you very much for catching that, council member. Right. Okay. Well, it's been moved by Councilmember Savedowson and seconded by Councilmember Bruce. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. Do you have the next item too? Item H, Regency Cleaners?
I do. And the policy question here is, should the Federal Way Police Department enter into a goods and services agreement with Regency Cleaner Enterprises, LLC, for police uniform and plainclothes dry cleaning services? And this is the company that's actually been performing this for us for years now. And we put this out to bid, and the contract ended. We put it out for bid. They were the only ones that actually placed a bid for that. So there were some slight increases. I believe that's in your document for items of clothes, which is not unusual. I think 25 cents or so for some different clothing items than it was last time. But this company is one that we've been very happy with. They provide good service, and they also, as part of this type of an agreement, they have to enter into our building and their personnel are checked to ensure that they're able to pass a background and that sort of thing. And it's about You'll see that in the back. It's about
Counselor?
$70,000 contract.
Yeah.
I have a
Thank
question.
you. Thank
Sure.
you.
I have a question.
Councilmember Seva Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Committee President.
That's okay. That's okay. You can promote me. I'm
Chair.
good.
Yeah, okay. So
There we go.
This company is out of Burien, correct?
Yes.
So have we even reached out to any of the local dry cleaning companies in Federal Way and offered them the opportunity to submit a proposal?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can tell you that our quartermaster, Kristen Gregory, has done that extensively. We have our first priority would be to award the contract to someone within the city, but we are unable to convince anyone to put in for it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Baruso.
Yes, I just want to comment that I know Regency also does ours, their department, and they've been around a long time, and they do a good job. So I'm not sure, when you look at everything that has to be done, whether it be bodily fluids and things that come through cleaners, that might be one reason why a lot of them don't put in for the proposals and stuff like that. So just a comment.
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
true.
Especially with COVID. Yeah.
Thank
So
you,
do I hear a
Council
motion?
Baruso.
Yes,
Oh,
I move to forward
somebody
propose.
talking?
I just thank Council
Sorry.
Baruso for the explanation. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, I'll move forward with the motion. So I move to forward proposed agreement to November 17th, 2020 consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilmember Baruso and seconded by Councilmember Seva Dawson to forward the proposal agreement for goods and services with Regency Cleaners to the November 17th council consent agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Deputy Chief Neal, before you leave, I'd just like to ask a question. Can you kind of guesstimate how many homeless encampments we may have within the city limits?
Just checked that the other day, and I'm going to say there's approximately 100 that we're aware of.
Wow.
Obviously, we all know this is a fleeting number. It comes and goes.
Yeah.
Right at this time, there's about 100.
I have a question
Go ahead.
about how many people
Deputy
are in
President?
each camp. About how many people would be in each camp?
Well, one to two, and that's the thing about camps is you might have a let's say a wooded area, and we don't count that as just one. We count the number of tents, if you will, or camps that are in there. So there's usually just one, maybe two people per tent.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we, during the cold weather, we do have some, provisions for the. Do we get the word out to them about where to go?
We do. In actuality, we're in contact with them quite a bit, and so are a lot of the organizations are in contact with them more than you may think. And yes, we do make them aware that there's opportunities for them, not only when it's the extreme weather, but also if they want to go to a shelter, if you will, there's space available if they would like to go. We also have let's say organizations like Union Gospel Mission that will come down and they will literally tell them, they will take them to Seattle if they'd like to go. So yes, they have opportunities. Yes.
Yeah. I wish we had more available beds for treatment. I think that would be the real need in the state, rather than putting them in jail, putting them in treatment. But we don't really have, available treatment centers. It's really a difficult thing, especially when they're taken to the ER and the hospital. They have to release. Yeah. Go ahead, Deputy Chief.
I was going to say, yeah, it's a very complex problem, and yeah, there's a lot more resources I believe that are necessary. Primarily, it's funding, I think, that prohibits that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can put that on a legislative agenda. It could be mental health treatment. It could be drug and alcohol treatment. It could be any treatment. It's difficult to when you say when they're ready to go, they have to go right then. I mean, you can't give them any time because they won't go. So it'd be nice to have treatment facilities available so that we were able to help them. Well, thank you very much, Deputy Chief. Is there anything else for the good of the order for you?
I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you. Council, let's see, we are now at the most important part of the agenda. We're at the end, which is other. Which means that you all get to go have dinner. So I'm wondering, does anybody else have anything else that you want to bring up or anything that you want to see on the next agenda? We're getting into the next agenda will be on December the 8th, the next meeting at 5 p.m. And that's going to be right in the middle, just before Christmas. It's going to be difficult for a lot of people. Hope to heavens we have some money coming in from some kind of a stimulus package by then to help our folks.
Is there a chance we would cancel this meeting if there isn't anything for the agenda?
I had thought it was going to be canceled, but I clearly have no idea. I really don't.
All right.
Mary Janicki, I see you're on. Do you have any idea about that?
No, I have not heard of anything on upcoming agendas.
Oh, John's there. Hi, John.
Hi. We have canceled in the past in December, so I mean it wouldn't be an unusual thing if there's nothing of substance to work on for sure.
Okay. And by the way, I'm still trying to get a lobbyist so we can get money for you for those fields.
I like the way you're talking.
I haven't forgotten you.
Thank you.
I haven't forgotten you.
We're happy to hear that.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, seeing nothing else, it was wonderful seeing y'all this evening, and I hope we get to see each other in person sometime. We won't know that until just before, but either John or Mary will let us know whether it'll be canceled. They'll see if there's any items. Okay, so as of now, we're still on for December the 8th until we hear differently, and have a wonderful evening, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Take care, Susan. Get well soon.
Thank you. Susan. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Feel
Feel
better.
better.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.